Welcome to Cut to the Chase, where we talk about compelling legal, regulatory, and public interest information and news. Your host is Gregg Goldfarb, an attorney, entrepreneur, investor, and activist.
Folks, it's time for our favorite podcast, Cut to the Chase. It's the beginning of the year, and some lawyers and law firms are a little upset about your numbers, and you're like, wow. You look at your top line, you're like, pretty good. Then the bottom line, oh my God, not so good. So what I'm doing for all of you, including myself, is I brought Chelsea Williams, who is the Chief Financial Architect at Core Solutions Group. How are you doing, Chelsea? I've talked a lot already.
I'm great. I'm good. Happy to be here.
All right. Happy New Year. I know we're rolling in the new year and everybody's like ready to make this the best year. And you could be the one to help people get to that level. So tell me a little bit about yourself, how you got into, how you started this group, and what's the group all about? What do you do? And why should lawyers and law firms be listening right now?
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, it is the perfect time of year for this type of conversation. And for those that aren't familiar with who I am and what I do, I'm Chelsea Williams. I started Core Solutions Group 8 years ago. And what we set out to do was be a proactive money solution in a typically reactive space.
You know, you try to be savvy, pull up a profit and loss statement, you're looking at it, you're like, wow, this doesn't really help. And you're saying to yourself, you know, where'd all the money go?
Right. Because what a lot of business owners alike, not just law firms, do is they look at their income statement for the year because it's tax time. And they're like, oh my gosh, this is not what I planned. This is not what I thought. And the truth is, it's not like your numbers went sideways December 31st, right? Like something happened at some point prior to you looking at those statements that you probably could have caught had you known how to approach your money, how to have those conversations with your financial statements. So Core Solutions Group is a proactive approach to money and a safe space to teach law firm owners how to speak the language of money, because it is a language, but it's also overcomplicated. And so that's our mission, to be like the cut through the onion, this is how we manage money solution for law firms.
All right. So this is really for the lawyer that is running his or her own law firm, or you're managing your law firm and you're responsible for your law firm's books and numbers and money. And what separates you from, let's just say, your ordinary accountant or your ordinary bookkeeper? Like some of these people, like, I got an account, what do I need? Why do I need to listen to this program?
Yeah. So first of all, in the legal industry, it is a niche. Even for us accountants and fractional CFOs, there are nuances to the industry. The biggest thing being your three-way reconciliation, right? That's the scariest thing about finances in the legal space. So, if you are wondering if you have the right bookkeeper, if you're looking for a bookkeeper and you're a law firm owner managing the cash, that's my number one recommendation. Make sure that who you're working with knows the nuances of your space. And I tell people to use the rule of 3, right? So if you're looking for a finance professional, talk to at least 3 people, because in this space, good fit absolutely matters. And for us and our clients, they're law firm owners who are looking to grow, looking to scale, looking to plan ahead and think about things like, who do I need to hire? When do I need to hire them? Being willing to come to the table proactively and put systems and components in place to do things like manage their funds. So, that proactive idea, not just trailing behind the numbers and, being surprised at what they're telling us, but we work really well with law firm owners who are ready to essentially become their own CFO.
So we are going to talk about the fractional CFO issue, but I want to start at like the basics. So, and I'm going to be a little bit of a devil's advocate here. All right. So I'm saying to myself, all right, I'm inputting all the data and maybe I don't characterize it in the right place, but the bottom line is going to be the bottom line no matter what. Is true or false? Does it matter?
It does matter. Now, I will say how closely you pay attention and how often you pay attention can vary in different spaces, right? So if you have a lot going on, you've got 3 to 5 or more different practice areas, coding is going to matter to you. How you group and visualize your financial statements, it's going to matter because it's going to answer that question of not only where is my money going, but where is it coming from, which practice areas.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that people don't realize, one of the things that the lawyers don't realize is that really for you to get a handle on, you know, where you're spending your money, are you overspending? And, you know, where all the money is going, unless you categorize everything properly, you're never going to have any idea. And so, you know, hopefully my accountant is not listening to this or whatever, because to some degree, my accountant really does not do the prospective type of stuff. You know, at the end of the year, we're like, okay, you made, oh my God, maybe you should, you know, expense some stuff out now and all that. And that's essentially what I get. What do you do different? Like, how is, all right, so now let's say we've got all the bookkeeping right. You've come in, you've taken a look at the bookkeeping. You're like, my God, you know, you don't even know the difference between marketing and just basic advertising or what have you. And you get people to start, you know, getting the categories neat and tight so you know where you're spending your money on. But what is it that you do prospectively for lawyers and law firms that has a benefit?
Yeah. So, you know, bookkeeping for us is the bare minimum. The saying you can't measure what you can't see and what doesn't get measured doesn't get done. It applies to your money. No matter how easy it is for you to make money, even if you're like, you're not experiencing any money problems at all and you're not tracking your money, like great, that works until it doesn't. Even if it's easy for you to make money, the margins are already there. Tracking and monitoring your money can help you anticipate things that you are planning to happen. This is where the proactive piece of what we do comes in. So for example, we offer a one-time service, no commitment. It's called a 12-month money blueprint. And what we do is we take the data from a law firm's books and we plug it into a tool that we have created. And over the course of 2 hours, we meet with this law firm to discuss their growth goals, their revenue goals, their marketing investment goals, their team growth strategy. We're looking at KPIs, key performance indicators, and we're setting up a cash management plan for the next 12 months. There's something that happens when you're a law firm, you want to grow, you want to scale, but you don't know how, you don't know who you're going to need to hire. This is the proactive steps to take to be able to anticipate things like that and to look out into the future and say, okay, here's my margins, here's my team capacity, here's what I need to be measuring to make sure that I get from where I'm at to where it is that I'm trying to go.
Now, this time of the year, you know, I'm on a couple of boards and we're always, you know, coming up with a budget. And, you know, we have a general idea on some of these boards where, you know, what money we're going to get. You know, I'm on a condo board. So, you know, we basically know how much money we're going to get. So I know a lot of lawyers out there might say, hey, I have zero idea how much money, maybe I don't make any money. How could I possibly come up with a budget? And is it worthwhile to do it?
So I'm biased. We'll just admit that, right? But
Yeah.
my answer to that question is yes, because even if you don't have money coming in, you're still going to spend money, right? So a budget, what a budget is it's awareness and intentionality of where your money is going. It's also an opportunity for you to hold yourself accountable, because even if you're in that place, let's say I'm a brand new law firm, I have a good idea of what my expenses are probably going to be, but I have no clue about when or how much revenue is going to start coming in. Okay, so, but don't we still need to know a point? Because the cash is still going to be going out, right? Don't we still need to know trigger points? For example, maybe you need to get a line of credit until revenue gets to a certain place. Wouldn't clarity in the numbers provide peace of mind to be able to say, with my initial investment, I can go 6 months without making $1 and rest easy? But on month 4, I'm going to have to kick it up and look into marketing or partnerships or whatever it's going to take to make this revenue happen, because that's what it really is. It's clarity looking into the financial future, regardless of how much money you know or don't know you're going to make and all the expenses that you can anticipate.
All right. Now, when you talk about cash management, how could you help me with my cash management? I know I got to pay this, I got to pay that. Why do I need to talk to you?
There is a magic system out there. It's not my system. I didn't create it, but we definitely promote it and help law firm owners install it into their business. It's a system similar to Profit First. Are you familiar with that book?
No.
Profit First by Mike Michalowicz. Okay. So the profit first system is basically, for those of us who are aged enough, we are familiar with the envelope system, right? Mom and dad back in the day before online banking and direct deposit would bring home their cash from work and set it on the kitchen table.
Yeah.
And they had envelopes in front of them, and they would stuff enough cash to pay the rent first. And then they would stuff enough cash to buy groceries in a different envelope. They had envelopes and prioritized where their money needed to go, and they physically separated it. It's the same exact idea, except for we're in 2024. We have the luxury of technology, and all we're doing is setting up multiple bank accounts and making sure that cash needs to be over here to pay our team, right? And over here to set aside for taxes, because that's something that if you're not approaching it proactively, estimated taxes or tax that you owe at the end of the year is going to bite you in the butt if you're not prepared for it and you're paying it, right?
Yep.
So it's a multi-bank account system where we use percentages and automatic transfers, and it is cash flow on autopilot. And I can sit here today and tell you, I have never installed it into a business and it didn't work. Even contingency fee law firms, it works like a charm because it's all percentage based.
Yeah. So, all right, now I saw, on your website, I went through it and you were talking about, like credit cards, is it good to use? And there were a lot of things that were basically, I guess, sort of like misconceptions. What do you see as the biggest misconceptions that lawyers and law firms have with respect to money and financial planning that you can help them out with?
Oh, let's see. There's a few. Let's start with entity type. Right? There are a lot of people out here advocating for an S Corp entity type. An S Corp is a great entity from a tax standpoint if you are at a certain milestone in net profit. You don't really start saving tax dollars until you're hitting about 60 to 90,000 in taxable profit in a calendar year. And so and I would call it more of like a lack of awareness, a lack of education. One of the things that I promote in working with a tax preparer, for example, because we don't prepare taxes, but I absolutely coach law firm owners on how to make sure they find a good tax strategist, right? And part of that is, the difference between an LLC and an S Corp and the different tax strategies available to them. So I would say that is probably one of them, just a misunderstanding of which entity type is right for you, where you're at now, right? And again, that ties into the proactive piece. An LLC may be great for you right now, but that doesn't mean that at some point it's going to be worth the conversation to switch entity to an S Corp.
All right, so I'm sitting here and I'm saying to myself, my goal this year is I want to scale up. I want to get bigger. Can you help me? I mean, my initial reaction when I think I want to get bigger is I got to go to more meetings after work and be nice and friendly and charming and convince people that I'm going to, be more responsive and I'm more of a tiger in court and I'm gonna kick butt or whatever. But can you help on that level, actually helping me scale up?
What I can help people do through numbers is I can show them how it is possible for them to grow and remain profitable. Now, what those options are, which scenario we pin numbers to, that's a whole conversation, right? And this is why sometimes you'll hear to me referred to as the money whisperer, because I understand that it is always and never about the money. We always have options, and our own minds are the ones that are kind of bottlenecking us from really playing those options out. So my role is to show you how it works out in the numbers. Once we find a scenario that gives you the numbers that you're happy with, now we have to talk about the part you said. All right, what are you going to have to do to go make it happen, right? And sometimes that's not to say that we won't find efficiencies in growth when it comes to your profits, right? So for example, a lot of times I'll go through my money blueprint projection with clients, and when we map out the money, right away, I can tell you're overstaffed or you're not charging enough, right? Using Pareto's law. Are you familiar with Pareto's law, the 80-20 rule?
Unfortunately, I'm recording all this. so I can go
Yes.
back.
So Pareto's law says that 80% of your results come from 20% of your efforts. That means that 80%, what that translates to in number is that 80% of your revenue is tied back to only 20% of your efforts.
Yeah.
So part of a growth strategy is figuring out how to exercise the highest and best use of your time, which probably in most cases includes how to exercise the highest and best time of your, or best use of your team's time.
Yeah.
So part of the growth conversation, the numbers are easy. We can work out the numbers and see that it's financially sound, but it's how are you going to approach it, and how are you always going to be looking for opportunities to be more efficient, to add more efficient value, things like that.
And one of the services that you offer, which was very intriguing to me when I saw it, was the fractional CFO. Explain what that is and why someone would want a fractional CFO.
Yeah. So in my eyes, a CFO is kind of like the glue to your financial team, because if you're a business owner, you have multiple financial players that you need to have at your table, right? And so some of those people are, like I said, your tax preparer, your accountant, your banker, your financial advisor or retirement planner. These are all the people that need to be on the same page on behalf of you. And if you don't have a CFO already, that's your role. You are the CFO. It is your job to communicate the vision to these people and keep them updated how they need to be updated. So what I do in that role is I'll come into law firms, and typically law firms that it makes sense for them to bring on a fractional CFO are the ones that are knocking on the door of $1 million in revenue a year or over. And so what this means is, instead of hiring a full-time CFO in your practice, you pay a fraction of the cost, and you get me, having been in the legal industry for 8 years now. It's a shortcut. Because right around that 1 million mark, it's like what got you here won't get you there. And right around that 1 million in revenue is when things really have to start changing. I have seen law firms get to $1 million in revenue without a budget, and they're profitable, but they get stuck because the next phase of growth is not going to lend itself to them unless they put certain things in place that have to do with money. So when we're working together, we start with that 12-month money blueprint in the fractional CFO setting. And as we go through that blueprint, we always identify different financial projects, areas of fog for them, questions they can't answer, KPIs they're not looking at, things that they didn't know to expect. For example, a lot of law firms have never heard of the Gold Star Standard ROI on their billable people. So like paralegals, attorneys on your staff, the Gold Star Standard is 4 to 5 times ROI.
Yeah.
And that's how I can go in and so quickly say, you know, you're probably overstaffed. If your billable team is not producing 4 to 5 times what they are costing you, there is area to improve in that metric.
All right. So another, I'm looking at your website, and a couple of things that kind of popped up to me was, the outsourcing of your bookkeeping. And I mean, this last 2023, I was all about outsourcing, finding employees that, that were not at my office, that I could hire from a virtual company. And, so I'm really getting into the whole idea of outsourcing as much as possible. Let's say I want to outsource my bookkeeping to you. What's the pros and cons? Give me are there any cons? But talk to me about it.
Yeah, so let me just say first, regardless of if it's a bookkeeper or a VA or a paralegal or an attorney, when you outsource something to anyone, you still have a piece that you need to be in touch with and accountable for. And that's no different than working with your bookkeeper or accountant. And I give bookkeepers and accountants so much grace, because oftentimes what we are dealing with is people that simply don't know any different. So we're not faulting them, but people that don't know any different, that you can't, like, metaphorically drop the box of receipts off at the office and the next time we call you, we're done and have no questions. A good bookkeeping team, a good accounting team is going to ask you questions. It's building a relationship. And it takes time to get to know your vendors, your spending habits, your preferences, because there are some preferences in how your financial reports are viewed. So the pro of delegating bookkeeping is that you don't have another craft to master, because it's easy to sign up for QuickBooks and push buttons, but the number of people that are doing DIY correctly is few and far between.
Yeah.
And when it comes to your numbers, garbage in is garbage out. And you do not want to be making business decisions based on garbage. So unless you are willing to go through a formal accounting education to make sure you're doing it correctly, and please don't do QuickBooks Online training, like actually find an accounting 101 course, right?
Yeah.
Unless you have time to become and learn how to be a good bookkeeper, delegation is always the answer. Because what you have to ask yourself is, let's say your bookkeeper costs you $1,000 a month, right? What is that? 5 of your billable hours, as opposed to how much time you're spending on garbage in, garbage out. The con of outsourcing is not knowing what to look for. And we have a free resource on our website for anybody who's listening, how to find and hire an outsourced bookkeeping. We put that out there because people don't know how to find and partner with bookkeepers in a way where they can still be out of the weeds, but know that everything is happening the way it should be and actually getting the deliverables that you should be getting through your bookkeeping team.
Yeah, nice. And one of the other free things that you offer, which I did, was you give a free evaluation and help people basically see all their mistakes. And I won't go through what ours was, but let's suffice it to say that I said yes to all the above. So tell us about the free consult. I said, essentially, what is it that you do? And what can people look forward to when they call you up and say, yes, I saw you on Cut to the Chase and I want you to give me this free evaluation.
Yes. So the free financial analysis is something we just recently did. We're super excited about it because it has been so impactful. Our purpose with this completely free analysis was to do what we have set out to do, which is educate and get more interaction with people and help them understand how they can properly manage their books if they do it themselves or if they outsource it. So what we do is we look at, for the free one, we're looking at your financial statements and we are teaching you how you have flexibility in how those financial statements are presented to you. We're teaching you what you should be getting out of those reports, because a lot of people look at financial reports and they do kind of what you said. Well, let's just look at top line revenue and bottom line profit. But there is a whole story in between that financial report that deserves, some attention. Not only that, but unfortunately, there are so many horror stories out there of working with bookkeeping and accounting professionals where things were supposed to be getting done and they're not getting done and they're getting paid for. And so with this free analysis, oftentimes we can identify potential areas that might be affecting accuracy, because just because you're delegating your books doesn't mean somebody else isn't putting garbage into them. And that's why you have to be aware of what to look for. And so that's the free financial analysis that we put out there. And there's a second one that we put out there. It is paid. I think it's like $5.25. But for that small fee, we take an even deeper dive into your books and we are checking an entire list off to make sure that everything that should be getting done is getting done and when it needs to be done.
Before you got into the industry, we really were not even allowed to advertise and market. It was forbidden. And, there had to be, there was actually a Supreme Court case that came out of Arizona that said that we could market. All right. I mean, you look at the world now and it's like, you drive and it's like every bus stop and billboard and you turn the TV on, there's advertising all over the place. So a lot of lawyers have gotten past that taboo, like, oh, I don't market, I don't advertise, that I'm above that or whatever. And everybody now is realizing that with the Morgan and Morgans and I got to market. So people have gotten to the point lawyers where they're like, okay, I'm going to spend a lot more money marketing than I ever thought I would do. And then what? I mean, so I think that at some level, you can provide an excellent service to these people to force them to see what their ROI is on their, okay, you're doing it, but where's it going? And I think that's a major, major step for a lot of law firms is it's the two steps. It's not just marketing, but it's, hey, is it working? And am I tracking it?
Yeah. 100%. And there's two sections in our 12-month money blueprint that we spend the most time on. One is team, the other is marketing. I focus intentional effort in that marketing section for an absolute reason, because there's two ways that money can show your marketing is working. Either your slot machine in it or you got a vending machine. And if you aren't tracking your marketing metrics, you're not going to know which one is which. And so I'll have people ask me a lot of the times, how much should I be spending on marketing? And like, sure, we can find a cookie cutter response and say 10% of revenue should be going back into marketing, but we have to stop and be smart about it. And that's why I love numbers. If done correctly, numbers don't lie. And I tell people, unless you have identified a vending machine, your answer is not just marketing. It's not just dumping money into marketing. That's a great way to waste money and have no ROI. So part of what we talk about, in addition to the financial forecast, is what do you need to be looking at internally? It's not going to show up on your income statement, but your income statement is definitely a piece of the puzzle. So I agree with you. Marketing is one of the places where we see money wasted and metrics not tracked.
Yeah. All right. Well, let me ask you this. Are there any services that you provide that we've not covered yet?
I think that's the most part. We have just your regular monthly accounting, payroll, all the basics, and then we have the proactive.
Gotcha. All right. So listen, folks, it's the beginning of the year. Budget analysis. You got to do it. You don't know what you got to do, but you got to do something. So I'm telling you, you need to call up Chelsea. Chelsea, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Our website, yourcoresolution.com.
All right. That's what you're going to do. You're going to do the free evaluation. Maybe you do the second dive, and get into the weeds. Just the process. I'm telling you, with me looking into this, forcing myself to get, print out reports, see how to do it or whatever. I can already see within a couple of hours of me doing it that I've been for years missing the boat. So Chelsea, thank you for coming on to the show today. And I'm going to drop all your information onto the show notes. And that will do it for this episode of Cut to the Chase.
Thank you. Happy 2024.
All right. We're going to make money this year, because I know all you lawyers out there, I can't say all of them, but a lot of them, you want to make money. And you don't want to just make money, but you want to have that bottom line nice and tight and not have all that money pissed away on things that you don't even know about. Where to go?
Right.
And Chelsea's going to help you get there. All right. Don't waste another second. Okay, Chelsea, have a good day.
That's all for this episode of Cut to the Chase. But before you go, will you open up your podcast app and give us a 5-star review? You can also leave a comment about what you liked most or other topics you'd like us to cover. And please be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any upcoming shows. Thanks, everybody. Be safe out there.